How's it going, everybody? Welcome back. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Today I'm going to show you how to make the most unbelievable chocolate eclairs. This recipe is fantastic. It ticks every box. It's got a wonderful flavour and it's also got an unbelievable texture as well. So with that being said, let's get started. So to make choux pastry, it is really easy to do. First, get yourself a saucepan that's got plenty of room in it and combine together 110 grams of unsalted butter, 125 milliliters of water, 125 milliliters of whole milk, 15 grams of honey, 1 to 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract or vanilla bean paste, and finally 5 grams of salt. And now heat it up over medium-low heat until all the butter is melted and it starts to boil. Then turn the heat off completely and add in 150 grams of plain all-purpose flour and mix until combined, and place the gas over medium heat, beating vigorously until it comes together and it forms a nice cohesive ball of dough just like this. Now this next step is really important. You gotta allow the dough to cool down to 50 degrees Celsius or below to avoid scrambling the eggs. And once the dough is cooled down, you want to start to add in 4 eggs, but add them one at a time, beating vigorously in between each addition to make sure it incorporates evenly. And once all the eggs are nicely incorporated into the dough should have a consistency something like this. So nice and smooth, but pretty thick so it's pieable. And now transfer the dough to a clean bowl, cover with some cling film to avoid skin forming, and let it rest at room temperature for 1 hour. And now fill a piping bag up 3/4 full with a French star tip, and before you start piping, make sure you remove as much air out of the piping bag as possible. And then pipe 4 rolls onto a tray that's been lined with some non-stick parchment paper that's 26 centimeters long by 2 centimeters wide. You're probably thinking, Will, these look extremely long for an eclair. If you are thinking that, you're totally right. But this isn't going to be the final size. We're going to first freeze these and then we're going to portion them later on. It just speeds the whole process up. And that brings us to our next job, which is the crumb dough. The choux pastry and the crumb dough go hand in hand. You place it on top of the choux pastry before you bake it, and at the end of the baking, it gives a really nice crust. If it's okay with you, I'm just going to breeze through this, as I've already showed you how to make it once on the Hazelnut Pie Breast video, which I posted 2 weeks ago. But I'm just going to quickly go through it once again with you. So under the fruit process, combine together 100 grams of unsalted butter, which I've cut into cubes, 110 grams of all-purpose flour, 125 grams of soft light brown sugar, and finally 15 grams of unsweetened cocoa powder. And now process until it clumps together and forms a dough, and roll the dough out between 2 sheets of non-stick parchment paper until you achieve a thickness of 3 millimeters. Then measure out a 26 by 13 centimeter rectangle and trim off the excess, and you can always reuse the excess scraps. Don't throw it away. Now you should have a rectangle that is 26 by 13 centimeters, and cut 8 rectangles out of that. That's 13 centimeters long by 2 centimeters wide. And you want to make sure you cut them out as equal as possible, so I recommend you use a ruler for this. And then slide them into a tray and put them in the freezer for a minimum of 2 hours until nice and firm, and just keep them in the freezer until you're ready for them. And now for the chocolate mirror glaze, we're going to make this up to 1 day in advance to allow the gelatin to fully set. So we're going to start by hydrating the gelatin. So combine together 12 grams of powder gelatin with 60 milliliters of cold water, mix together until combined and there's no lumps. Then set to one side to allow the gelatin to fully hydrate. Next, we're going to make a chocolate paste. So in another bowl, combine together 71 grams of unsweetened cocoa powder with 148 milliliters of room temperature water. And mix it all together until you achieve a nice smooth, thick paste. And then set to one side. And now in a saucepan, combine together 106 grams of caster sugar with 142 milliliters of double cream. And heat it up over medium-low heat until the sugar is completely dissolved. And by the way, make sure you mix it every so often to avoid the sugar from caramelizing on the bottom of the pan. And now remove from the heat and whisk in the gelatin until nice and smooth. And then right after, whisk in the chocolate paste, and just to ensure there's no lumps, and then using a stick blender, blend it together to get rid of any excess lumps. And now, just in case there are some lumps in there and I missed it when I was blending, pass the glaze through a fine mesh sieve. Guys, it's better safe than sorry. Then tightly coat the glaze with cling film and make sure the cling film and the glaze have direct contact so that you avoid a skin from forming on the top of the glaze, because it is an absolute nightmare to get rid of. And then put in the fridge overnight to allow the gelatin to do its thing. Now it's bake day. Preheat oven to 180 degrees Celsius. Now portion your frozen choux pastry strips into 8 equal eclairs that are 30 centimeters long. In other words, cut each strip in half as you got 4 strips, but I wouldn't eyeball this if I were you. I would recommend you use a ruler so it's more precise. And then place your eclairs onto a large tray that's been lined with some non-stick parchment paper, and top each eclair with some brown crumb dough. And then dust them with cider sugar and bake at 180 degrees Celsius for 40 minutes. Then lower the oven immediately to 160 and bake for an extra 10 minutes to dry them out. Then remove from the oven and place on a wire rack to cool completely. And there you go, that is how you bake the perfect eclair. The crumb coat is a big part of this. It adds a nice amount of texture and flavour to the eclair. Trust me, it's worth that little bit extra effort. You don't want to miss it. And now our next job is to make the filling, which is going to be a creme diplomate. It sounds all posh and fancy, but all it is a pastry cream stabilised with a little bit of gelatin with whipped cream folded through it. It's very simple to make and it tastes great. So into a small bowl, combine together 5 grams of powdered gelatin with 30 milliliters of cold water. Mix together until combined and it's nice and smooth and there's no lumps. And set to one side to allow the gelatin to absorb all the water and fully hydrate. Now to make the creme pâtisserie, it's really easy. In a large saucepan, combine together 500 milliliters of whole milk with 1 to 2 teaspoons of vanilla bean paste or vanilla extract, your preference. And heat it up over medium-low heat. Make sure you're whisking every so often to avoid the milk from catching on top of the pan. And once you start to see steam, turn the gas off and pop a lid on it to allow it to infuse. And now once the milk's infusing, in a bowl combine together 4 egg yolks with 60 grams of caster sugar and 30 grams of corn flour. Beat together until light and pale in colour. If you're doing this by hand, it will take about 3 to 5 minutes. If you're using electric beater on the other hand, it will be a lot faster. And then when you lift the whisk up, it should hold its shape just like this. Beautiful. Now get your infused milk. Now you're going to add a little bit of the infused milk to the egg mixture. This is called tempering, and you're going to whisk it together until well combined and it's nice and smooth. And then pour it back into the pan with the rest of the milk. And then place over medium heat, whisking it constantly until it starts to thicken. And then, once you start to see a few bubbles come to the surface, set yourself a 1 minute timer on your phone and continue whisking vigorously to ensure it is nice and smooth. And then remove from the heat and add in your gelatin and whisk it in until it's completely dissolved and fully incorporated. And there you go, creme pâtisserie done. Just pass it through a 5 minute sieve to ensure there are no lumps. And cover with cling film and make sure the custard has direct contact with the cling film to ensure no skin's going to form. And then put it in the fridge for about an hour or 2 to give it time to cool down. And now get yourself a nice large bowl and add in 180 milliliters of double cream. Whisk it to medium firm peaks so it holds its shape. And then get your chilled creme from the fridge and beat it together to loosen it a bit. Now add a third of the whipped cream to the creme pâtisserie and beat it in just to loosen it a bit more. Then pour the creme pâtisserie into the big bowl with the remainder of the cream and mix that in until combined. Do not over mix. And there you go, that is how you make creme diplomate. And now we're almost ready to assemble. And now get yourself a pie bag, fill it with a circular tip and only fill it up 3/4 of the way maximum. You'll thank me later. And now ladies and gentlemen, we're ready to assemble. Get an eclair, slice it in half horizontally using a straight blade, then open it up and pipe the filling into the base and top it off with the crown. And then carefully place it into a tray upside down. And then repeat with the remaining eclairs, and then you're going to put them in the freezer for a minimum of 2 to 3 hours until frozen solid. That way they will glaze so much better. Now your eclairs are ready to be glazed. Reheat the glaze to 30 to 35 degrees Celsius and get your eclair. Dip the top off the eclair into the mirror glaze. Remove it, allow the excess to drip off, and then carefully place it onto a tray that's been lined with some greaseproof paper and repeat with the remaining eclairs. And then put them in the fridge for a minimum of 5 hours, but preferably overnight, may I add, to make sure they are thoroughly defrosted in the center. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen, that is how you do it. That is how you make the beautiful classic chocolate eclair. And that's it, that's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed or you learned something, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.